Hey everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of June 2nd through the 8th of 2025. All right, so this week we have a continuation of the lunar cycle that began early last week. So last week we had a new moon and it was the beginning to the new lunar month. And so coming into this week, we are entering into the more action-oriented phase of the cycle, the first quarter moon, which is all about integrating and really manifesting the energies from the lunar month. Now, we do have some sign changes this week that are very important. We have Jupiter going into Gemini, which is very significant from a yearly standpoint. So for about the next year, this expansion when it comes to learning, curiosity, interest, more practical, sort of grounded forms of knowledge and information is absolutely great during this transit, and perhaps even some social energy in the sense of being open to exchanging with others. So some things to look at differently here, some opportunities to be cultivated here for the next year. And right around Friday, Jupiter does get closer to Gemini, so it really starts that this week. That'll be followed by Mercury on Sunday into Gemini, and so that adds the more practical side to it, really. Mercury in his home sign of Gemini, Mercury will go into here on Sunday, and so this is going to be, I think, a much quicker, more easier to think and communicate sort of energy available there. Again, also expansive, but also practical. And then lastly, with the sign changes, Venus will be entering into Aries also on Sunday, coming out of watery Pisces, the last of the fast movers to leave watery Pisces. And so starting to value more initiative, more proactivity, more direct energy, and probably a lot of this coming through in our relationships as well. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here's the sky for this week. We're going to look at this for each day of the week, starting first with Monday, June 2nd. And as you can see here, we are using the visible sky on this channel, which is very different from mainstream astrology. For example, in mainstream, they're saying that the sun is in Gemini, but if you do look up at the visible sky, you will actually see the sun in Taurus. So we are using the visible sky. Signs are very different. Placements are very different from mainstream astrology. And so if you are new to this channel, definitely check out the link down below for more information. All right, so let's do a little bit of a recap here since it is a week of sign changes, and we did have Mars entering Leo last week, so there's been some recent changes as well. Yeah, the sun in Taurus, and this was part of the new moon early last week. So we're still somewhat in the early phases of the lunar cycle. But again, coming into Monday, really Monday, Tuesday, we enter into the manifestation phase of the cycle, the first quarter moon, when the sun and moon square each other for the first time in the cycle. And so this tends to be more of an action-oriented phase of the cycle, tends to benefit more challenging of ourselves, right? Integration, applying the energy. And because of that, starting to notice things manifesting. So I think a good way of working with this week is to sort of reflect on what started to come into your life since the past week. What are the new interests, the new perspectives, and perhaps even new intentions that you've set recently, even throughout all of last week, as it's really throughout the whole early phase of the cycle we're planting seeds. But that you can take action on this early part of the week, really challenge yourself, really implement and move forward. So I think that's a great way of working with the week in general. With the sun in Taurus, it's all about grounding energy collectively. It's a great time to be focused on taking things one step at a time, checking in with our inner resources, our inner selves, self-worth, self-value, self-belief, building these things up. Also cultivating our natural talents, natural abilities are great with Taurus. And externally connecting to the material world or the natural world as well. So getting into the nature, or maybe the monetary, or maybe just having more of that sensual, even luxurious, comfortable experience that Taurus really helps us do. So stopping to smell the roses, as it were. So great to be focused on things in this way. This is the collective intention. And when it does come to implementation, I think that's a great way of working with the week. Like we said, Venus is finishing Pisces. We'll talk more about this, but all the way up until Sunday. So for pretty much the whole rest of the week, we still have that finishing up of the watery energies. We've had a lot of watery energies earlier this year, with a lot of the Pisces activated and Mars in Cancer activated. And they've been staggering out, and this has led to more proactivity, more action, more forward movement. Now, Venus to be the last of the fast movers to leave Pisces on Sunday, but she's still finishing this week. So still seeing how we can value the receptive, how we can value the flow, how we can value deep emotions, we can value the more intuitive, spiritual, receptive energies of life, and connecting to life and others in this way is still fantastic for the bulk of the week. Last week we had Mars entering Leo, and so it's been really good to be more proactive with self-expression, asserting what it is we love, putting more energy into the things and people that we love, and all in all, getting more playful, more creative, more comedic, maybe having more play in life. This kind of energy is really good to be putting energy into. So that's still going on there. So all in all, it is what I would say earlier in the week is really a mix between the earth and the fire. And this is the Taurus and the Leo and the fixed signs. And here it is challenging to integrate because they're both squaring. They're both very different, but they are similar in that they're about values. They're fixed, so they're about values. Taurus's values, like we said, is about cultivating resources, those inner and outer resources. This is really what the month is about. But especially this early part of the week when the moon is squaring the sun from Leo, Leo is about the values of passion, the values of the heart. And so how can we integrate these two very different things? The more earthy, grounded values with the more passion, fiery values. And if we can find a way to integrate these, that'll be absolutely fantastic, not only for the early part of the week with the first quarter, but I would say for the whole week as a whole, since Mars is, of course, still transiting through here as well. Okay, so that's the sort of general overlook of the week. Like we say, coming into the week is going to be more of the manifestation, the integration energy, maybe coming off of a little bit of healing energy from the weekend, perhaps with values and relationships is quite possible, with Venus easing up off that conjunction with Chiron. But that's really what the first few days of the week really is about, implementing and integrating that first quarter moon between the sun and Taurus and that moon in Leo. Then as we start to get to the middle part of the week, we'll probably notice a little bit more momentum building in the lunar cycle, less integration, maybe slightly less action, although it's really good to continue to build this action as we are approaching the full moon, which will be Wednesday of next week. But building that momentum, and this involves the moon going into Virgo for pretty much the whole rest of the week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So Virgo coming after Leo is about then doing the work, right? So we have that passion of Leo, matters of the heart with Leo, and then Virgo comes in to say, okay, well, let's actually work on this. So really the bulk of the week, the middle part, let's say, really good for improvement, personal development, building good habits, skills, routines, and all in all striving towards that perfection of self and of life in terms of what we do have control over, right? And we've learned a lot about this between these past couple months, and with the nodes transiting through Virgo and Pisces these past couple years, really, we're now really finishing up this part of the year, these whole lessons around doing and being, work and rest, control, no control, focusing on what we do have control over, letting go of what we don't have control over, these sorts of themes. But this week, certainly still good for this intention, although a lot of the more challenge or karmic energy of that is slowly starting to release and clear up as the South Node particularly is leaving Virgo and going into Leo here over the next couple months. And of course, the North Node doing the same out of Pisces going into Aquarius. All right, so that's this middle part of the week with Virgo. Now, we do have some sextiles, which are some openings, some things we can choose or choose not to work with, but they are certainly available. Venus sextiling up to Jupiter can give us an opportunity to see things from a bigger picture when it comes to our values and our enjoyments and our relationships as well. So Venus is the ruler of Taurus, and so anything really about this month involving this development of resources, we can look to Venus. And we can see that right now, again, it's happening through receptivity still, through connecting to who and what's important to us on a soul level. Okay. And Jupiter's giving a little bit of an opportunity to see that from a higher perspective, let's say. So there could be new perspectives, maybe even new opportunities that we can choose or choose not to cultivate when it comes to those values, enjoyments, and relationships this middle part of the week. Now, Mercury will also be sextiling Mars, giving another opening, but this one here for assertiveness and directness, specifically when it comes to that communication and more mental energy that is, again, really starting to get activated once we get to Friday, but then especially by Sunday, once, again, Mercury goes into Gemini. So Gemini is that constellation of Mercury. It's the constellation of learning, of curiosity, of interest, and even, again, exchanging, not just because we think of learning as actually a communication of neurons or hemispheres of the mind, but this external is business, trade, neighbors, peers, siblings. Gemini in short distance travel. Gemini involves the glue that holds everything together, not only mentally, but also environmentally as well, in our immediate environment. And so this is really getting activated, giving us a little bit of, again, assertiveness with Mars around Thursday. But all in all, this is an energy that's really good to start to view differently, start to see maybe there's some new ways to think about things, maybe a new perspective on life that's a little bit more practical or a little bit more, sort of interconnected, let's say. And so Jupiter's going to really help us really start to see this for the next year. But that's going to be on Friday. Jupiter's starting to enter into Gemini there. Okay. And a little bit of healing with Chiron with some of the mental stuff is available. Really nothing major with Chiron being very minor and the sextile being very minor, but we have a sextile with Chiron there as well. Okay. And Friday still, Friday's still Virgo, Saturday's still Virgo. And once we do get to Sunday, this is where we again have Mercury going into Gemini, adding to that learning, curious, interested energy that's, again, just really good to cultivate, okay, and learn about. Expanding with Mercury over Jupiter, this is grounding both the expansion and the contraction. So in other words, the abstract mind and the practical mind. Thinking big, but also thinking realistically, and vice versa. Taking some practical things and starting to see the opportunities, start to expand it. So it can be really good for, both sides of this, all kinds of information and knowledge. From the Jupiter side, it's philosophy, which becomes more grounded. Higher learnings become more grounded. Studies become more grounded. Wisdom, spirituality becomes more grounded. And the other way as well. The practical everyday stuff becomes a little more spiritual. Everyday stuff becomes a little bit more higher, more opportunistic, more expansive. And so really great combination. I like it. It's not, traditionally not the best place for Jupiter to be in. Jupiter, of course, prefers the opposite sign of Sagittarius, where it's more expansive. But I think it does create a very nice balance between those two, dichotomies of life, the left brain, the right brain, the practical and the abstract. Okay, so that's there on Sunday. On Sunday, the moon will be in Libra, suggesting that there could be a theme around balance and perhaps also relationships as well, bringing things back into balance personally and interpersonally as well. Sometimes themes around give and take, mutuality, morality, ethics, things of this nature. That's Sunday. And then Sunday as well, Venus starts to go into Aries. And so this is going to really set the stage for next week. Coming out of that watery energy of Pisces, now we can start to value that assertive and proactive energy. Most likely the way we'll feel this is that we start to see the value of proactive, fire, assertive, independent energy. And because of that, start to perhaps enjoy it more and connect more with others in this way. So we're very likely to be more assertive in those relationships. Maybe do things in relationships that are a little bit more proactive or athletic or, active, assertive, direct in nature. And this can be great as well. Okay, so that is the week in a nutshell, distilling this down to the most essential elements. We're coming into the week in the first quarter moon. That's the action phase of the cycle where we start to manifest the monthly energy. This is in the context of the new moon we had around last Wednesday, and it's all about Taurus this month. It's all about building those inner and outer resources. And it's really Leo that can really help us do that early in the week when it comes to our self-expression, connecting to the things and people that we love and integrating that into our earthy values. Now, the middle part of the week is going to have the Virgo energy. So it could just be, a good week for improvement, refinement, work, service, getting into the details of things, basically making all that fiery energy a little bit more pragmatic. Now, the shifts happen around Friday here with Jupiter starting to go into Gemini, which is a yearly energy, expanding the practical aspects of life for the next year, learning about it, approaching it differently. And this will be double emphasized once Mercury goes into Gemini and passes over Jupiter, really adding to that curiosity, interest. At least they're here very strong for the short term, but again, still also a yearly energy as well. And then lastly, Venus starting to go into Aries does give a little bit more fire when it comes to our enjoyments and our relationships in life. All right, so everyone have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to stay tuned for the live stream. We go live here every Sunday at 1:15 p.m. Eastern time of the Americas. Join us there for that. We go into the weekly forecast in more detail and also answer a lot of the community questions and just get more involved in the community, start to view the energy from different perspectives as well, see how you all are experiencing it, and get a sort of, get in touch with the collective energies in terms of how we're all experiencing this stuff, different viewpoints. But I hope to see you there, and have a great week, everyone. And I'll see you all for the next weekly forecast. Take care.